Hey everybody, so I just want to give you a quick update as to what's going on with the crypto markets, and then we'll also cover some stocks. And the reason I'll be covering those stocks, particularly Mara, Tesla, and MicroStrategies, is because they are carrying Bitcoin on their treasury. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. First of all, we're looking at Bitcoin. We're experiencing a little bit of pullback, but if you zoom in on a 4-hour chart, it's nothing really to worry about. We're bouncing off of that 50 EMA. And one thing I'll keep in mind is that as long as we stay above $90,000, I think all is well. This type of move, this type of pullback is completely normal. If you go back to November 13, we experienced approximately 6-7% pullback from the highs. So right now we're experiencing what I would say only 4.3, 4.4%. So it's nothing really to worry about. Just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on your target at $90,000 as your support. As long as you're above that, you're good. If you're below that, I would start to worry a little bit, and then kind of keep an eye or maybe reduce your exposure. But as of now, things look good. On a bigger chart, we are forming that cup and handle formation. Cup and handle formation, usually what it would do, if you look at from here to the top of that resistance, that's what, 200%. So cup and handle formation chart would indicate that we would get another 200% to the upside, which I don't necessarily think, because that's going to take us all the way to, let's see, that'll take us all the way to like 200 something thousand dollars. I don't necessarily think that we're going to see that, but cup and handle formation are a very strong chart pattern that usually does play out. So if we do get more institutional money, if we get more favor regulation now that Trump is coming into the office, you could potentially see a move like that that would be considered a blow off top. But I'm also getting a lot of question as to why some of the altcoins are not necessarily moving the same pattern. So for me to answer that, we have to take a look at Bitcoin dominance. What that means is usually in a 4-year period for altcoins and Bitcoin, what it would do is that first of all, Bitcoin would move higher, the dominance would move higher, and most of the money would flow in, which will result in Bitcoin going to the upside. And then altcoins bleeding in comparison to Bitcoin. But once it tops, it gets like 70-71%, or usually about 65-70% is a good area. That's where Bitcoin dominance usually tops. So once you get to that point, then Bitcoin dominance will slowly bleed out, and that's when altcoins will outperform Bitcoin, usually like 10-1. So if you look at November, December 2022, up to all the way up to now, Bitcoin for the majority of the time has outperformed most altcoins. Now there are some exceptions that has outperformed Bitcoin by a mile, but that's an exception. Usually, this is comparing to all the altcoins. So all the altcoins have bled. Majority of the altcoins have bled to Bitcoin, and which is why you see the Bitcoin dominance moving up higher. Now we do have this trend line that's in place right around that 61% that we pulled back from that, and that's when you saw some of the altcoins, like some of the altcoins that don't even make sense, like I'm talking about XRP, I'm talking about Cardano, just had insane move to the upside. I'm talking about Stellar, usually like 50% or even 100% in about a week. And that's the power of Bitcoin dominance tapering off. So when you see Bitcoin dominance tapering off like this, you could see that type of move in most altcoins. So that's something to keep in mind. That's something to watch. And I think that's what basically excites most of the retail traders, because they're all in altcoins most of the time. So keep an eye on this, and that will kind of dictate and tell you what's going to happen next. The best example of this I can give you is that if you look at Avax BTC pair, we saw a bounce off of the support once, we saw a bounce off the support twice, and 3 times. Now, ever since that November 10th, 11th time bounce off of the support, and that's usually a very good indicator to watch, right? So when you see a bounce off of support like this on a BTC pair, that tells you that there's more money that's going to flow into that particular altcoin. Now, the best example that you could see is look at the USD pair. So right around that same time frame, right around that November 11th time frame, we've had what we have had approximately 83, 84% move. Now we're giving back a little bit because we're, Bitcoin and everything else is pulling back, like just we saw. So I would keep an eye on AVAX and watch it how it behaves around that 40, 39, 40 area, because this is a very strong support. So if it bounce off of the support, I could see AVAX making its way up to that $98 as your target number one. So keep an eye on that. This is very important for most of the altcoins. Watch the Bitcoin pair, see how it's performing on technical basis, and then that'll kind of give you an indication as to what's going to happen with that particular altcoin. Now let's take a look at Sol USD. Sol USD, the same thing that we just talked about, the whole cup and handle, right? There's a cup and handle formation on Solana USD as well. Solana USD, we saw a move of approximately 1,000%. Now, does that mean we're going to get another 1,000%? Not necessarily, but does that mean we're not going to get it? I would not call it off at this point. The reason being is that Solana is known as the black hole. It's actually one of the altcoins in the market that's beating pretty much everybody when it comes to an actual revenue generation. So Solana is generating more revenue than Bitcoin and I would say most all altcoin put together, including Ethereum. And the reason being, yes, their fees are very low, but they're making that a fees in volume because they're processing insane amount of volume. All the altcoins that you see, all the meme coins that have been launching from the past month or two are pretty much all launched on Solana because it's cheaper, it's easier to process, and that's where most of the attention is. So it is considered as the black hole of the crypto assets at this point, besides Bitcoin. So keep an eye on that. If it does break out, like we just broke out of that resistance that we had in line at the top. Let me look on a yearly chart. I can be more specific about that. So we tested 266, and that was pretty much our all-time high resistance. Right now we're pulling back. We're pulling back right around that 20 EMA. We're staying above that. So as long as we're staying above that and staying healthy, I think we're good. Worst case scenario, it'd be a good idea to use that 206 as your next support if you want to add into your portfolio. This is not a financial advice. I'm just giving you technical analysis opinion as to what the charts are telling me or what you would do based on the charts, not financial advice at all. This is just my opinion. This is what I see in the charts, and this is what I'm telling you. So this is a perfect cup and handle formation, and this could really have an explosive move to the upside. Now, if the money does flow out of Bitcoin into altcoins, the altcoin season really starts, and we see that Bitcoin dominance kind of tapering off, you could see an insane move in something like Solana, especially now that all the meme coins are launching every week or every month, like by thousands of them, and most of them are utilizing Solana. So you could see that price action somewhere around that $500-600 around, like I would say, March, April time. So keep an eye on this, and if it doesn't work out, you could see an insane move back to the downside as well. All investment carry risks, so basically make your investment decisions based on the risk that you're comfortable with. So that's that. We'll talk about MSTR again. The reason we're talking about MSTR is basically issuing debt and buying more Bitcoin with it. I think after BlackRock, they're the biggest, second biggest holder of Bitcoin, and so there's a beta built into the price, and that euphoria kicked in, and as you could see, it had an insane move from September 24th up to I'd say like a few days ago, it was up 352% in about a month or so. So we are experiencing a pullback. And the reason for that pullback initially initiated when Citron Research basically said that, hey, they're shorting MicroStrategy because these prices don't make sense. And now it's trading, it used to trade at like one beta. Now it's trading a 4 or 5 beta. That means for every dollar it goes up, it needs to be able to have 4 Bitcoin. Or for that price movement, or it has to justify that balanced pair between the two, which it really does not, because it's trading at almost 4x Bitcoin. So it is trading at a very high premium, but I would not necessarily discount macro strategies. This might be used as a pullback for a lot of the investors to get back in and push it maybe all the way to $1,000 or $1,200. This again, not financial advice, but If you were to put money in, if you were to put money in, not that you should or shouldn't do, that's totally up to you. But if you were to put money in, I would watch that 340, 350 area. That would be a zone to consider if you're going back into micro strategies. Even though it's very risky, both to the upside and downside, I would not necessarily short this and I would not necessarily get long either. It's just something entertaining. It's just something to watch because there's a ton of money on both sides. And you could have an insane wick, both to the upside and downside, based on the price movement of micro strategies, but mostly based on the price movement of Bitcoin. So keep an eye on that. But if you were to put some money in, something to take a look at is Mara. Mara is doing the same thing that MicroStrategy is doing. Is basically using their playbook. And the thing about Mara is that they're actually also mining Bitcoin. Their average cost per Bitcoin is somewhere around $60,000. So they're already well in the money. And now they ran into this resistance. It broke out of that resistance this morning at $28, $29, and now pulling back because Bitcoin is pulling back. But they've issued debt as well, and they're buying more Bitcoin. I believe they just bought $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. So you could see that is reflected in the price movement, and we just bounced off of the support that's been in place since January of 2023, actually December of 2022. So keep an eye on Mara as well. I think Mara, if it breaks out, our first target would be around 35, 36, and then we're looking at 58. Now, if you get a euphoric breakout in Bitcoin, you could see that 83 around March, April time. So this is something to relatively less risky than micro strategies. But again, all investments carry risk. Make your decision based on the risk you're comfortable with. So that is Mara. We covered Avax. Now let's take a look at Tesla. And the same thing with Tesla. I'm covering Tesla because they are holding Bitcoin as well. And so if they decide to put on a bigger size of Bitcoin in their balance sheet, you could see an even crazier move. And that might be the trigger that this needs to break the all-time highs. A lot of the big names have broken all-time highs except Tesla, but now they have had a really good quarter, past quarter, and they had really good guidance going into the future. And the fact that they are carrying Bitcoin on their balance sheet, so any trigger to push it up above the all-time highs, especially with Elon Musk and how they try to utilize whatever they could get to push their price up higher. I think them just announcing they're gonna purchase more Bitcoin might necessarily be that catalyst that will push it up to all-time highs. So keep an eye on this. It's one of the interesting stocks to watch. But that pretty much covers everything I wanted to cover and give you a quick update. Now, if anything changes drastically, I will do another update as soon as I can. But if nothing, if you have any questions, please comment below and I'll do my best to cover that particular stock or crypto asset, whatever it might be. And so don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Thanks, everybody.